Hello, welcome to Reely Rated, the movie review podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Stevens, and today I'm joined by my 00 agent in training, Jess Andrews.
Jane Bond.
Jane Bond here, reporting for duty.
How are you?
I'm good. Now, today's film is Quantum of Solace.
You asked me.
I know.
Be careful what you wish for.
So, if our listeners heard the last podcast, you would remember that I gave Jess a choice out of all the Daniel Craig films. I think deep down I was hoping you probably might pick Spectre, because I think it's a bit of an iffy film when it comes to critics. But no, you picked Quantum of Solace. But I have to say...
And from there, our friendship dwindled.
The cracks slowly started to show.
That's it.
I have to say, on this rewatch, I was actually glad that you did pick it, because there's, in my opinion, a lot of bad. But there's also shining moments of greatness, dare I say.
We'll see about that.
Yeah. So before we get into the film, because I think I just want to give a few notes on the film itself and the director. So it's directed by Mark Forster. Did you know that he was German, Jess?
I did not, and I didn't actually know who he was at all, I must admit. When the credits were coming up, I turned to my partner and was like, Mark Forster. I'm sure I've seen the name before, but I cannot tell you.
I keep wanting to say Forrester, but it's not. It's Forster. I made sure to pronounce it properly. But he did... So before he did the Bond film, he did Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, and Stranger Than Fiction, which I've seen none of those films.
I've seen Finding Neverland.
I remember you and I started watching it when we were at uni, and I think we got distracted. And then since Bond, he has done World War Z, which I have seen. I do love World War Z. Christopher Robin, and he did a German film called My Stupid Dog.
I feel like you made that one up.
We'll see. I'll leave you to find out whether I made that up or not.
I mean, I would say all of the films on that list I am not keen on.
Well, I've not seen Christopher Robin, and I don't think it's my sort of film, so I won't be watching it. Even though I have Disney Plus now and I have no excuse.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, I don't know. I suppose it caters to a certain audience, obviously, like everything does, but it wasn't my cup of tea. I was bored.
Did you not enjoy World War Z?
Not massively. It didn't stay with me. It wasn't like...
No.
I think there were a few thrills in it, but I can't remember much about it apart from... In fact, no, I'm not going to say it because it's a spoiler. But I don't remember anything about it apart from the twist at the end.
I'm still waiting for the sequel, because apparently there's a sequel that was going to be made by David Fincher, but I don't know if it's being cancelled. I mean, in this coronavirus environment, I don't know whether or not it's going to be greenlit. Well, actually, no, tell a lie. I think post-coronavirus, we are going to get a heck of a lot of zombie films, I'm telling you now.
Yeah, and lots of... Contagion 2s.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if Contagion 2 hasn't been greenlit, I don't know what they're playing at.
Yeah, well, they'll get lots of people watching it, but I don't know, I don't really... Profiting off the death of thousands of people was a bit... Millions even is not my idea of fun, but there you go. That's Hollywood.
Yeah, but judging by, the past, after the war, there was a heck of a lot of war films, World War II. It's just, I think that's what's going to happen. But anyway, moving on. So... The cast, of course, includes Daniel Craig. This will be his second Bond film at the time. We are coming on to 5, am I correct? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it'll be his 5th one.
Yeah, so No Time to Die, which we were meant to be getting this month, but because of the outbreak, I'm sure everyone knows it's been pushed back to November, which I totally understand, but I was so looking forward to his last Bond film. But apparently it might not be his last one now.
Oh, I don't know anything these days.
Oh, whatever. And then he's co-starring with Olga Kurilenko, who plays Camille. And of course, we've got the phenomenal Judi Dench as M, Gemma Arterton as Strawberry Fields, and Matthew Amalric as Dominic Green, with an E at the end. Even though I did not spell it with an E at the end during my notes. So. And then I've got a fun fact, which is it is the 7th highest grossing film in 2008.
Really?
Yeah, I'm lazy. I didn't find out what the other 6 were, but... But before we jump to the film, and I always do this, I can always say, right, first let's do this, and then we'll jump into the film, but I promise we're going to jump into the film after I do this. But I want to get a base knowledge of your Bond knowledge. I can't talk this morning.
But honestly, it's not a lot.
So I've got 3 questions, though, that I'm going to ask you, because I want to find... Because these are the 3 questions that when you say to someone, oh, yeah, I love Bond, they always say to you these 3 questions. So first one is, Who's your favourite Bond girl?
Um,
And if you say, "Oh, that chick in that film," that's fine. I'll know who you're on about.
yeah. I guess M is M is my favorite Bond girl.
She counts as a Bond girl. That's fine. And then second one is, what's your favourite Bond car or gadget? Allow gadget because cars are a bit annoying.
Yeah, that question is completely wasted on me because I can't remember a one.
Have you got a gadget though?
No.
Oh no.
Sorry.
This is fun, and this won't be easy. Who's your favourite Bond? And it could be Daniel Craig because spoilers. Daniel Craig's my favourite.
Yeah, I would say then Daniel Craig. I think Sean Connery from the little of what I've watched of Sean Connery was quite good. I enjoyed him.
That's good. So let's jump into the film, shall we? Because I keep delaying us, but let's just jump right in. So this is considered the first Bond sequel, although technically that's incorrect. Because whenever there's one Bond that takes over, because there's always different Bond eras, they will always reference back to their other films, but particularly in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Bond gets married at the end.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and then in the following film, which I can't remember for the life of me right now, because it was that weird era where it's George Lazenby for one film.
Yeah.
She gets killed at the end. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen that film.
Can't believe you spoiled that.
Yeah, but it's referenced to in the opening scene of the following Bond film. So technically this isn't the only sequel out there in the Bond universe, but it is the only film that really has to rely on the film before.
Yeah, I feel that.
So I think the best way to handle this film is if we focus on the three main characters, which are Bond, Camille, and Dominic Green. So if we start with Dominic Green. Now, Jess, I want to gauge your opinion on him as a villain to start off with. So what was your thoughts on him?
So the first time that we watched it was in the cinemas.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds really bad, but when I chose Quantum of Solace, I chose it because I couldn't remember one thing about it, apart from that Camille had a scar on her back. That's the only thing that I could remember.
What an odd thing to remember.
I know. I think it was because I always thought to myself, like, why make such a massive deal about a scar? But anyway, the villain in it was the one thing that I can't remember. I think I was talking to you or Mitchell, and I was saying, like, I don't remember who the bad guy is in it. Like, I was getting confused. I was wondering, is it the guy from Casino Royale? Like, the guy with the inhaler? No, it can't be. He's dead, blah, blah, blah. And I just could not for the life of me remember who it was. But I didn't Google it. I thought, no, just watch it and it'll come back. And when I watched it, it did come back. And I was like, oh yeah, that guy. The guy that looks, like a weird water demon. I don't know.
Don't you think he looks a bit, and I'm really sorry, Matthew, I'm not insulting your appearance whatsoever, but his eyes, he looked like a lizard.
He does.
They're very protruding, and
he reminds me of one of those little, like, squeezy monkey toys you get, when you squeeze it and the eyes pop out.
Yeah.
But I think it was on purpose, though, 'cause I haven't seen him in anything else, but I think he was actually trying for the whole, like, kind of slithery character,
because his eyes were really wide. I think he might have been purposely, like, you can sort of like push your eyes open more.
Yes.
I mean, I've got quite lazy eyelids, so it looks like I'm sort of like always coming on to people, like I'm flirting. But if I really push him open, I can. But I think he might have been I hope he was doing that.
I think he was, because I feel like if I'd have got that script, I probably would have done the same thing, because he does come across to me anyway as somebody who probably was the small man in school, didn't have any girlfriends,
Yeah.
But he's made some money and now the women are coming, but he's still this kind of... I said to Rich, the way that I summed him up was... I turned to Rich and I said, Randall from Recess?
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, if he grew up... That's him.
Yeah, no, it is. And I love the bit, and he's such a diva, because I love the bit, when they're coming out of the opera,
yeah,
and Bond throws that bodyguard who turns out to be special, what's it called? Special service in the UK. But he throws off the bodyguard and lands on the boot, and he turns to his guards and go, is he with us? And they're like, no. And he goes, then he shouldn't be looking at me.
Don't look at me.
I was like, what are you, Mariah Carey or something? But Because we spoke briefly yesterday, and we both said on the phone that he doesn't have anything that distinguishes him as a villain. And overnight I looked it up, and that was on purpose, which in my opinion was a mistake. On the source that I found, they said that Mark Foster wanted him to be a modern villain, and he wanted his nefarious scheme to speak for itself.
Right, okay.
Right, and this is where my first issue with the film comes in. Not only do I think he is a weak villain on his own, and he has no distinguishing features, which is a mistake, because every Bond villain has something about them that sets them apart from someone else.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but it's never their scheme. It's never their scheme. It's always something about them themselves physically.
It's the whole monster complex, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, in movies, people associate with how someone looks, and if someone looks monstrous, then they're more likely to be like memorable as a villain, I think.
Yeah, and the whole premise of a story comes from folklore and it comes from fairy tales, and there's always something about the villain that sets them apart from the hero. The hero's obviously always dashing. The damsel in distress is always like beautiful and obtainable.
I mean, obviously it's hugely problematic.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
but
I think,
but it is what it is.
But I think that's an issue with Bond that I think a lot of people have either overcome or they're challenging. So if you don't like Bond, you're not going to like Bond because it's obviously massively sexist. It's obviously massively misogynistic.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of the films in this modern era of Bond with Daniel Craig have handled that very well. I don't think... Actually, no, I was going to say I don't think this is one of them, but I think it actually is a good one. And we'll get to Camille, because Camille is a big part of that.
Yeah, I think really the issue with Dominic was that... You know, I actually would have found it quite refreshing if they had played him very sort of like almost like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Like, not appearing super dangerous until the end. But because that first scene where Camille goes back to him after he tries to have her killed, spoiler alert, it flips every 3 seconds from he's scary, oh, he's not scary, he's scary, oh, he killed someone, oh, but she's you know, she's like, what's the word, emasculating him. I couldn't figure out if I was meant to be threatened by him or just he's just like a bit of a like a henchman sort of character. Like, where's the big baddie?
I think it also comes down to the plot as well, because that first scene when she returns to him, and he even says it himself, like, oh, I'm surprised you came back. And she was like, oh, what, because you tried to have me killed? And I was thinking to myself, if this is the relationship that the two of them have or have had, then why on earth wouldn't he have killed her himself when they were just in bed?
That's what I said. I was like, he would have had so many chances to kill her. He could have literally, like, he's surrounded by his own henchmen. When she first went into the room to find him, he could have literally stood up, shot her in the face, and dumped her in the sea.
Yeah, and to jump to what happens to Strawberry Field, when he sort of dumps her body in the bed in the room, we assume it's him and his henchmen. The fact that he's so sadistic that he drowned her in oil, to me speaks to a control issue. Like you said, he seems like the sort of guy that was at school that never got dates or got female attention. But he seems like the sort of character that would revel in killing someone, especially a woman.
Yeah, power trip.
So the fact that he had or has henchmen to do it for him rather than him reveling in himself or even being present, I don't believe. And also I think it creates a problem and a few plot holes in the film, especially early on, because I don't know about you, Jess, but I found it really hard to grasp onto what the plot was.
Yes, I must admit, a few times, even though I was watching it like really intently, I was confused. I don't know if that's just because I'm not very literate in like the action spy genre, and I'm easily confused. But I just kept thinking, wait, what just happened? But I think it was because everything was so rushed. You know, characters are sort of just like word vomiting in like 2-second cuts, and I couldn't really grasp what the... I know that they have to be quite vague, because when you start talking about politics, like with Bolivia and the coup that they're staging and such, you're going to alienate your audience if you have a scene of them sitting down and discussing the politics of the nation. But also I think sometimes going too vague is a mistake, because people just go, wait, what are they doing? How are they doing that? What?
It's so odd.
I mean, I have no idea what... All I could get from it is that Green's organisation could do something with, like, swaying the vote for this politician general guy, and he was going to take over Bolivia for some reason, and that Dominic was going to help him with that. But I can't actually remember what it is that Dominic has to offer him.
I think the main problem with the film, which is Quantum of Solace itself, is the fact that they brought in this organisation called Quantum.
But I'm confused though, because I thought that Spectre was the bigger organisation.
And this is exactly where the problem comes in, because that is true. And it's never explained, but I've read that you're meant to take that Quantum is Spectre, but it is an arm of Spectre.
Right, okay.
Because, like in Spectre, that they've got the octopus logo and there's many arms sort of thing.
Yeah.
But here's the issue, right?
Right, okay.
Here's the issue. In Spectre, right at the end, when Bond's walking through the buildings and he has those pictures of all the people that he's faced. So you see Le Chiffre.
Yes.
You see Javier Bardem's character. What's his name?
Oh God, it's gone right in my head.
Silver.
That's it. Yeah.
Silver. I just remember him as melty face guy.
Yeah.
Silver. And then you've got Blofeld himself. Dominic Green definitely isn't there. Full stop. I know he's not there because it always stood out as me as a glaring omission of Quantum of Solace itself, because it was never that popular.
That's a strange decision to make, isn't it?
Yeah, and all I can think of is that it's an arm of Spectre that isn't that important.
Right, yeah.
Which goes back to the plot. And you actually voiced it very well, because I think that is what the plot is. It's meant to be the general wants to take control of Bolivia, so he's got Dominic Green to use his organisation to sway influence, and in return he's going to get, I think, land just outside Bolivia or in Bolivia to harness for oil.
But I don't understand. The way I saw it, right, was that they were creating a drought in these deserts, right? So who did that? Who set that up? Did the Green Organisation? Did they do that, or did the general?
See, and this is another thing which I don't understand. But is it? I don't know if it's because I'm stupid or I don't understand, because obviously fracking is involved.
Yeah.
But fracking is, in my little knowledge of what fracking is, it's to do with water in that it contaminates water, is it not? Because they shoot water into the ground, don't they?
Oh, you're right. Yes, it says fracking is the process of drilling down into the earth before a high pressure water mixture is directed at the rock to release the gas inside. From
what I took from the film, you're meant to believe that what Green did with the oil to extract it caused the water to go down into a cavern in a well, so it's hard to get.
I just thought that I thought that what they were doing was they were creating a drought because it would force the people in the towns who had no water to vote for the general, because he was going to bring back water.
I think the issue, I don't know, because the thing is though, I think they were burying the lead with where the true story is here, in my opinion, and this brings in Camille. So I'm going to bring Camille into conversation now, because I don't know about you, Jess, but in my opinion, the fact that we meet this girl that's looking for revenge on this general, yet the general is a side character to the main villain, yet she knows the villain because she slept with him and she was using him to get to her villain.
Yeah.
And then you're meant to believe that Bond is trying to take revenge for Vesper on this villain who is part of Quantum, but then you find out later on Quantum's not the true Spectre.
I'm confused as well in terms of so they capture Mr. White, and then it all comes out that Agent Mitchell was with Quantum / Spectre the whole time. Bond goes off to Port-au-Prince and then goes to that guy's house. So is that guy, the guy that he kills on the balcony, is that guy meant to be with the Secret Service? Because they know his name, and then he's meant to be and then who's the geologist? I was just so confused. I had no idea what was going on.
This is why I was massively confused right at the start of the film, and I do remember being confused in the cinema, but I don't know.
The thing is, I was thinking to myself, look, obviously I have seen Casino Royale, but I saw it in the cinemas ages ago, when it came out, and that I haven't seen it since, whereas you've seen it more, haven't you? So I was thinking to myself that when we talked about this, you would explain it all for me and go, oh no, Jess, it's because in Casino Royale XYZ happens and that leads on to this in Quantum of Solace. Because when the car chase began at the beginning, I was like, huh?
I was gonna leave this till the end, but I think it's a perfect time to bring it up now. It's a sad fact, but if you didn't watch this film, you would not be lost in the other films. So my point is, you could easily skip this film and go straight to Skyfall.
Oh, so sad.
Let me point out a few things for people, right? So we see Mr. White at the beginning of the film and he reveals the aspect of Quantum, which we know they retcon to be Spectre because Quantum of Solace didn't work and they thought, right, let's wipe it out of the timeline and we'll bring in Spectre later on.
Yeah.
Best decision they made, in my opinion. So Mr. White reveals, we're everywhere. Oh, I'm spooky. I'm part of a massive organisation.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm spooky.
But the thing is, he comes back later on, and they actually do retcon his story in that he becomes much more integral to Bond himself and Blofeld later on.
He's dead though, isn't he? Didn't he get shot in the...
No, he survived. He's dead in Spectre because Bond kills him.
Oh.
So if you skip this film, his story could easily just be picked up again, and we get the ultimate conclusion of his story in Spectre, which is great. Now, Vesper, if you skip this film, you'd still know she was a traitor. You'd still know that she pays penance by sacrificing her life for Bond. So you'd still know that she was a bad person, but she made good in the end. I didn't need to know that she was tricked by a double agent at the end of the film, even though I enjoyed that aspect of it. I didn't need to know all that because I could just deduce that from my years of watching spy films that she was turned.
Number 3.
Oh yeah, number 3 is Spectre itself. So the fact that they bring Spectre back in Skyfall essentially, and then they reveal it in Spectre itself, we don't need to know about Quantum.
No.
So ultimately, Quantum becomes either an arm of the octopus, or it becomes something that they just totally retcon, which in my opinion they did.
What I find really odd and a complete wasted opportunity is that, so the film is, well, the second scene in the film is them finding out that, you know, Quantum's everywhere, Spectre's everywhere. Ooh, it's so scary. And they do allude to it like once or twice during the film, but I thought they were going to go down a path of like, you know, like the theme of the movie was going to be like paranoia. Like, we don't know who we can trust. Because M goes off and goes, oh, you know, I worked with him for 8 years or whatever. He gave me Christmas presents. I met his family, blah, blah, blah. Which, in any normal, you know, human nature would make you incredibly paranoid, right?
Yeah.
If, like, your not best friend, obviously not friends, but if your colleague that you've known and loved for years and years suddenly turned out to be a double agent, surely every single person in that agency is going to be like completely on the edge now because you don't know who to trust. Not even Bond gets, like, she doesn't. There's no even kind of like, is Bond even to be trusted? You know, like, they could have done so much with that.
And I feel like the film wants her to do that because she keeps on constantly, which actually wound me up to the point of like, do you not understand what a 00 agent is? She's so belligerent with the fact that he keeps killing everyone. And I'm like, he has a license to kill. That's the whole point of the first film. And it felt like Mark Foster didn't get that.
Well, that's what I was confused about, because I said to Rich, it's really weird because she's saying like, oh, cancel his credit cards, you know, cancel his passport, blah, 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 and all this. But surely, I mean, obviously he does things like he steals cars and things like that, right? Which I guess they have like somebody in admin in MI6 going, you know, turning up the next day with a new car for the person, like, yeah, I'm really sorry, we had to use this for a mission. Imagine how pissed off you'd be if your car got nicked and you were like, So I'm guessing there are things in place to allow him to do these sort of things. As well, that's not touched upon, I don't think was touched upon really, was that, okay, yeah, he's killing like the baddies, like left, right, centre, but quite a lot of people in this movie are being, like civvies are being killed.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Which is a really weird thing to put in, because I know it is probably realistic. Like, you know, you're in a crowd and the villain is shooting the gun and they're all, you know, running around.
And the poor old lady's groceries get smashed.
Oh, my cabbages! No, yeah, I mean, that lady that blonde young woman gets shot.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit strange because I think if they're working, say you know, there's like a bust up in one of the villains' warehouses or something, and they're all baddies and they're all part of this, you know, agency that's evil. If random people get shot, I think the audience watches it and says, oh well, it's a big barn of baddies, you know, so if they get shot, then well, they probably deserved it anyway. But when it's in just normal like civilian life, people get randomly shot because Bond made a bad decision, because he started, you know, running after the baddies and shooting his gun off and all this. Why is there no kind of moral payoff for that in the movie? Like, I know that M reprimands him for shooting or you know, offing all of the leads, But there's never anything to say like you need to be more careful. Like you're killing innocent people now.
Yeah, and yet there is in Casino Royale. And I'm sorry to be the one that's going to bang on that every other Bond film is better than this one, but it's about consistency.
Yeah.
Like in the first film, when Bond pursues that bomber, and then he sort of makes a massive political snafu by blowing up the bomber, and it takes out a load of civilians in the embassy. It's mentioned. M reprimands him for it, saying, like, you know, you're meant to bring him in, not blow up the bomber. And it implies that he took out a bunch of soldiers as well. That their only crime is that they were in an embassy, which the guy took shelter in.
Yeah.
In this, there could have just been a throwaway line from someone just saying, you got a civilian killed because you, like, took off.
And I'm pretty sure he knew that as well.
Yeah, because he looked.
Like, I'm sure he noticed.
She got shot and fell on him, and he sort of, like, pushed her aside.
Yeah. Move, bitch, get out of the way. No, I found it, I must admit, but I don't know whether or not it was meant to just add to the chaos, but that really is what made it hard to watch and hard to, I think, memorise the characters. Like, the reason that you don't really, I don't think anyway, remember much about Dominic or Camille is that you don't really get to spend any time with them, like actual time, because the camera is jumping around so much. Like, so for instance, in the scene where Camille and Bond are in the plane, and we'll get onto the end of the plane scene later, but in the beginning when they're discussing their plan, you could have probably used maybe 2 or 3 shots at most.
Yeah.
To be efficient in that scene. Oh my god. It literally went her, him, behind them, in front of them. Her, him, behind them, in front of them. Her, him, behind them, in front of them. For the entire, like, couple of minutes. And I was just thinking to myself, you could have just plopped the camera down and just let them talk and concentrate on their emotions. But instead, you're just jumping around. And I feel like Mark Foster and whoever the editor was, I'm sorry, I don't remember who the editor was, I feel like they were worried that the film didn't have enough action, and that's why they just made everything into like a feast for your eyes. Like, look at that shot, ooh, look at that angle on their face. And that happened the entire way through the film, apart from 1 or 2 scenes where you needed a pan shot because they were like running around or whatever. To me, it was messy. It never let you have a little breather or appreciate the characters or the story because it was constantly jumping around.
Do you know, that is a perfect word for this film, messy.
Yeah.
Because I think, to be honest, the whole film jumps too much. So, like, we're jumping from one... And I know this is... People are going to go to me, Mitchell, this is what a Bond film is like. We jump from one location to the next. But, however, in my defence, because they're dealing with a lot of desert in this film, once you've seen one desert, you've seen them all. And let me jump to Spectre for a second, because you know when they're in the desert coming off that really extravagant train and they arrive at Blofeld's lair, or well, they wait for a car to turn up.
Yes.
The whole scene was done so stylistically better than what any of desert or locations have done in this film, because there's substance to it. Whereas in this film, we go to one, like for instance, the opera. So we jump to one location just for the sake of jumping, it feels, because they want to get a different location in because they're not confident in the location that they're filming in. Like, all this film could have been in one place, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But they choose to jump from different locations because they feel like they have to, because it's so boring, the shots they've got.
Yeah, I mean, it feels as well maybe that perhaps they had such a massive budget, because they always do. I feel like they just literally had so many different cameras to use, and they had so much footage, most of it boring, but they just thought, you know what? Let's just mash it all together and make, a jambalaya of the scenes, rather than just like, a bit of mash on the plate.
Yeah. But then, so I'm going to bring Camille in. Like I mentioned earlier, this film is all about vengeance. And we get the fact that Camille's looking for vengeance for her family and for herself. And then Bond's looking for vengeance because he feels betrayed by Vesper. And I think deep down he knows that Vesper was coerced, even though we don't actually get any confirmation of that. Even though M says to Bond, she was working under duress and that sort of thing. He's so angry at her at that point because he hasn't come to the solace yet that she was not at fault for what happened. She didn't go out and betrayed the embassy in that, because she worked for the Treasury, didn't she? The Treasury.
I can't remember.
Yeah, she worked for the Treasury. Because in the scene on the train in Casino Royale, she says, "I'm the money."
Show me the money.
Now, there is a through line of vengeance throughout the film that you could follow. However, it's muddied by all the other stuff that's in it. And in my opinion, it sidelines Dominic as a credible villain because Camille ultimately isn't trying to get revenge on Dominic. She's trying to get revenge on the general.
Yeah, but the general feels like a side plot.
Exactly. It feels like he should have been the villain.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I
100%.
get that Dominic ultimately is Bond's goal. However, he's not. Because do you know what? I've just come to a realisation that at fault here is Quantum. Because Quantum is this kind of non-tangible thing that you can't grasp because ultimately the filmmakers don't know whether or not they want to make it Spectre or not because they might be saving that for other Bond films. There's no villain there for Bond to actually be like, you're responsible for Vesper and her death, so therefore I need to go after you. In my opinion, maybe they should have made Mr. White the main villain.
Yeah.
Because we see him in Casino Royale when we find out that he is her handler, along with that guy that has an eye patch. That I can't remember his name. It just comes down to the fact that, for me, Camille became the most interesting person in the film because she had the most simple storyline and the most simple of motivations.
I did like her as a character. I felt, yeah, like I said, her motivations were clear. I don't really know. I think the problem is that the dynamics between her and the other characters are never made clear. Like, you wonder what she's doing with Dominic because nothing is explained to you or even inferred to you of how she feels about him, really. Like, one minute she's scared of him and the next she's like taunting him. I don't understand like how she feels about him because I don't know how we're meant to feel about him.
I almost feel as if maybe the film should have focused more on their relationship and ultimately made him the one that killed her family.
I think there was just way too many fish in that kettle.
Yeah, because
and it was
you could have had a kind of like dangerous liaison thing going on where she's sleeping with him to try and get into his organisation to take them down from the inside.
But it might have even worked better if actually Dominic was played a little bit more pathetic, not pathetic, but more sympathetic. And that he was working with the general. The general's the one that we're meant to hate. Dominic's just a bit of a pawn, really.
Do you know what? We've got a film right here, right? Get it reshot. We'll write the script.
But I think that really it suffers from a lack of simple storytelling. I mean, it is relatively simple, and it's one of the shortest Bond movies, I think.
Yeah, it is.
But I feel like, I mean, I'm not well read in Bond or spy movies really, like you are, but I am relatively bright and I can follow a plot, and I just felt confused the whole way through. And I must say, talking on the lines of Camille, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess, but at the end when it's all done and they've sorted out Dominic and all this, the general, the throwaway side,
yeah.
Second thought general second thought is what I'm going to call him from now on. After that's all done and he leaves, he just randomly snogs her. And I turned to Rich and I went, what was that about? Because to me, there was no romantic chemistry between him and Camille. I thought they were friends.
I'm with you up to a point, but I think we're coming at this from two different directions, which actually speaks to the point I'm going to raise in a second. But I felt as if, because I've got it written down, let me quote what she says. So, at the end, at that point that you're talking about, so they've just killed everyone, they've got their revenge.
They've just killed everyone.
Yeah. She said, and burns down a really horrid hotel. Can I just jump to the hotel for a second?
Yeah.
It was basically all metal and corridors. If I paid to go to that hotel and that's what I arrived at, I'd be like, it's like I'm at an office.
It's horrible.
It's disgusting. Anyway. She says to Bond, do you think they'll be able to sleep now? And Bond says, I don't think the dead care about vengeance. And then she says to him, I wish I could set you free, but your prisoners are in there, in his mind. So what I took from the kiss was that she was giving him a gesture of solace, like, I feel bad for you. Almost like she's trying to heal him. I didn't take it as romantic.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I suppose my emotional through line when I was watching it was that there wasn't really a romantic spark. It was like, it was a friendship thing. And to me, you just don't snog your friends.
Yeah. No, it is a bit odd.
But maybe that's just my own projection. That's me projecting.
But I don't blame you for that, because I think we're going to have to bring up the issue of misogyny, because misogyny is so closely associated with Bond that you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
However, what I like about the Daniel Craig films, and I think this film is less successful in establishing who Bond is allowed to be with and who he's not. And what I mean by that is, so in every Bond film, there's often two Bond girls. There's one which is the good Bond girl who ultimately gets with Bond at the end of the film. And, well, you believe they go off and have, a romantic relationship that ultimately ends because Bond can never be tied down.
Yeah.
But then it's also the femme fatale, who often is the one that is bedded by Bond halfway through the film. Now, where this film trips up is that there's no femme fatale, and the person that Bond ends up with halfway through the film is Strawberry Fields. This is where I get into a kind of my projection. I love Strawberry Fields, and what I love about her is namely that she's played by Gemma Arterton. I find just funny in every role that she's in.
Yeah, we differ there.
I know we do. I can sense it in your voice, but
your silence says 1,000 words.
But what I loved about Strawberry Fields is that she arrives and she's like, "I've been sent here to bring you home." And I know she says after she's been bedded by Bond that she says, "I'm so angry at myself." And he's like, "I'm sure you're furious."
Yeah.
But what pissed me off about that moment was that it takes away any power that this woman has. And I get that's the point because she ultimately ends up dead. And I do think, even though M rakes him across the coals about it, I do think Bond actually feels sorry for it.
Do you think? I don't know. I don't think he well, I mean, maybe I just misread it, but if I had been writing that script, not that I'm no Paul Haggis, but to me, there should have been at least one scene where it kind of dawns on him, like, she died because of me. Like, it kind of, obviously he knows it, but there's never anything showing the audience about his regret. There's no...
I disagree, because I think it's lost in editing, like you pointed out. There's a really quick shot where he sort of, before they put the blanket over her body, that he sort of sees her, and I read sorrow in that shot. I don't know if it was just me, I might be projecting.
I didn't see it. But then, to be fair, Daniel Craig's face is always pouty anyway. But no, I mean, the way that I interpreted it was that, yeah, she was a bit of a throwaway.
Yeah, but do you think Bond's sadness should have been more explicit in this film? Because it's definitely buried deep down, about Vesper. I mean, I know we actually do understand that he wants vengeance, but it's always about vengeance. It's not about sadness.
Yeah.
And maybe that scene at the end between Camille and him would have worked better, and it would have read less as like, let's just have a snog. And it might have been a bit kind of like, oh, I feel sorry for you.
I think because it's problematic, because I suppose the whole thing about Bond is that he doesn't cry. He's not well, he does cry in Casino Royale, doesn't he? I think. I can't remember. But, like, obviously you can't have him sat in the car sobbing on Camille's shoulder. Going, I'm so sad. I'm so guilty,
I think we may get that in future Bonds. I think once we've put Daniel Craig to bed, I do think there's a massive change, because there's been such a change in social understanding since 2006 was Casino Royale, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
The world has changed so much, and the whole idea of how people relate to each other now and how people understand each other in terms of like gender and sexuality and stuff. I think it's time for a massive change in not how Bond operates, but certainly how Bond is understood himself.
I think, to be fair, actually, if you read it from a perspective of, like, toxic masculinity, although I don't really like that expression sometimes, but...
No, I agree with you. I think Daniel Craig's portrayal of Bond is a massive tightrope between toxic masculinity and tenderness.
Yeah, I think if you read it from that perspective, he becomes more sympathetic, because you think, well, he might well feel this, but toxic masculinity is... preventing him from sitting down and having a good old heart-to-heart and cry with Em about it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like he should be. And obviously that's building a foundation for how broken he is and everything that happens in Skyfall and everything. I feel that... I mean, the one thing I did like, I must admit, about the film is that I kind of liked the way that they killed Dominic.
Yeah.
It was quite poetic and quite scary. Like, I know he wasn't, like, blown up or... Well, he was shot in the head. Yeah, who shot him? Was it Spectre?
Well, this is... from what I understand... Well, because Bond left him...
He didn't have a gun, did he?
Yeah, Bond left him with nothing but motor oil, didn't he?
Yeah.
So from what I understand, he got thirsty on his walk back. On the foot that he stabs himself in, by the way. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So what I understand is that he obviously got thirsty, had a drink, and was obviously dying, and then Spectre caught up with him because they wanted to tie up loose ends. So yeah.
Oh, see, I thought that it wasn't that he was thirsty. I thought it was like a suicide, like giving him the suicide, like mercy.
Oh, well, yeah, and they just turn up when he's dying, probably, yeah.
Yeah, the way I saw it was like, what's the movie where there's a character talking about the gun is starting to look really friendly. Is it in Pirates? I can't remember.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's Pirates. Yeah, when
it's something like, when you're stuck on an island for 10 weeks, that bullet starts to look really friendly or something like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. That's right. That's it. Because they give him the bullet to kill himself, don't they? When they mutiny him.
Yeah.
So I thought it was more along those lines. I thought that it was like, oh, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to give you the method to kill yourself if you want to.
Oh yeah, and Bond definitely knew he was going to kill himself.
But I didn't think it was because he was like, I'm so thirsty.
It's just that my own take on Dominic is he's so weedy and so pathetic, but at the end of the day, he's never going to kill himself because he has too much ego. So I always took it as in that he was thinking, well, if I have a sip here and there, it might hurt, but I will survive ultimately. And maybe, like...
I will survive.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him in the desert, shaking his motor can? I will survive.
Hey.
Because I'm Dominic Green. Don't look at me.
He's such a diva.
I know. No, I mean... I came out of the film feeling quite, not angry, just disappointed, because there were a lot of things in there that I thought could have been really cool or could have been really like helpful to how we understand the characters. Like, I thought it could have been quite illuminating, but I didn't feel like I gained anything. I didn't feel like I knew Bond better. I didn't feel like I knew Camille very well. I suppose that's the nature of the Bond girl, I suppose. But it felt like M was nothing but a cock block for the whole mission. And there were some certain shots as well that, I mean, some people might have liked, but I couldn't stand. Like, when the plane goes down, I thought that was filmed horrendously. Like, the actual kind of set piece of the plane going down up in the air and then stalling and then falling, they fall out of the plane, he jumps down and they fall through it and all this, and then falling down. Could have been filmed so beautifully and so, like, stylishly, but all I could think was, oh my god, they're in a wind tunnel with a bad green screen.
I think ultimately, and I don't know if you share this opinion, but I feel like every single set piece involving a vehicle absolutely failed in this film.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the car chase, it was almost like Mark Foster had watched too much Michael Bay.
That's what Rich said.
Same mind, Jess, same mind.
He went, oh, Michael Bay's been involved in this.
Yeah, because I wanted to see what was going on with the vehicles, and we were too close to the vehicle.
That's what I said. I said I can't figure out whose car is whose.
Yeah, and then I'm sorry, but like no chase scene involving a boat ever excites me. It's just because there's so many little things you can do on the sea.
Yeah.
Right, I'll give you now the 4, maybe 5 things you can do on a chase scene. Right, on the sea. You either get squished between 2 big boats.
Yeah.
You either launch off a boat.
Yeah.
Or launch off some sort of ramps. That's free.
Yeah.
You either fight while the boat is going out of control against someone that's actually on your boat or invaded your boat.
Yeah.
Or you're just firing guns at each other on a boat.
Yes, that's true.
There's nothing else you can do.
Or shark attacks.
Yeah, or shark attacks, yeah. And what I mean by that is when they're just involving boats. If you've got like a plane or another car, perhaps, something else that's not on the water, I think you can make it more successful, because then you move from being just say, for instance, there was a plane and it was taking off and the boat's chasing it. You're going from being on the sea into the sky. That's exciting. But when you're
or even if you were to jump, like in scuba, if you were to like jump into the sea.
Yeah, it's just
that
so
would be better.
Boring. And then when it comes to the plane scene, it's Michael Bay all over again. Like, we're just jumping from one thing to the next. And it's like, I can't see what's happening. And also, the whole kind of being thrown out of a plane and only one of you's got a parachute is so rote. There would be more than one parachute on a plane, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I no longer believe that anymore. Okay, so before we give our overall opinions on the film, and I think people probably know what we're going to say, but let's find out what the other sites that we go to, which is IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and Metacritic, think about the film.
So when I looked up what the critics thought, I have to admit, I was not. Well, I think I was shocked at how positive actually it was, considering that when you talk to most people about Daniel Craig films, especially, which one do they like the least? Most people say Quantum. So you'd assume it would be sort of a 5, maybe 5.5.
I have a fear on that, but I'll get to that when I talk about my overall opinion of the film. But yeah, sorry.
Okay. But IMDb, it rates it a 6.6 out of 10, which is basically a 7.
Yeah, basically.
Which actually is pretty good. A 7 is all right.
But Jess, at the time, do you think you would have given it that? Because I don't even think I would have given it. Because I do remember that when we walked out of the film, we were pretty like, it was good, but meh.
It wasn't like a terrible way to waste an hour and 45 minutes, but neither did it add anything to our lives or... Like, the next day I wasn't thinking about it. In fact, in the evening I wasn't thinking about it.
No, exactly, and that's how I remember feeling. So I wouldn't have given it a 7.
Rotten Tomatoes is a 65% fresh rating, which is also quite shocking to me.
That's too high in my opinion.
And Metacritic is 58%, which I think is slightly more towards what I would think.
Yeah, same.
I think you have to judge it. Well, it's difficult with a franchise, isn't it? Because it seems natural to judge it against the other films of that franchise, because it feels unfair maybe to judge it by itself when the nature of it is that it's part of a whole. But I think in the case of this one, because as you said, it doesn't stand alone, you have to have watched Casino Royale. Because I'll admit I struggled because I haven't seen Casino Royale in so long. I know the basics of it. I remember kind of ish what happens, the gist of it. But there were things that were being said in the movie that I did not understand because clearly there's a gap in my knowledge from Casino Royale. And I think for a film to be successful, you need to at least be able to watch it as its own film and not be sat there thinking what's going on. You know, there has to be a creative way. I mean, everyone hates, big narration overviews in the beginning of a movie. But I think with a film like this, they needed to think of a more creative way to make things clearer for the audience that maybe hadn't seen Casino Royale.
Yeah, because what would have been clever, and I know they wouldn't want to go for this, because I think they wanted to go with the whole kind of... Because at the end of Casino Royale, you see Bond shoot Mr. White in the leg, and then he says the classic line, which he didn't say throughout the whole film, I'm Bond, James Bond, blah, blah. And I know they wanted to jump straight back into the action. However, I think it would have been quite smart to maybe done a flashback to maybe him getting debriefed about what happened in Casino Royale, if you get what I mean.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so he's having a scene where he's being debriefed at MI6, either by M or by someone.
Yeah, or even like a mandatory psych evaluation or something.
Yeah, which they do later on in like Skyfall, which is great.
Because that would at least then give you some context. It would also make you feel more sympathetic for him. It would give you up to speed with what's going on. And it would solve the problem of his, thinking to yourself, well, he's just running around killing people and not caring what happens. But I do understand that they wanted to go for an exciting, kind of roller coaster ride for the audience. But with that, you have to have some context. Otherwise, it is just a Michael Bay thing where you're sat there going, okay, well, it's all lots of explosions and cuts, but I don't really know what's going on. I thought the fight scenes were relatively good, though.
Oh, now that you brought that up, sorry, not to interrupt you.
How dare you?
So basically, this film was marked as the most violent Bond film there is.
Really?
In a study done in 2012 by the University on Otago in New Zealand, they found that whereas Dr. No featured 109 trivial or severely violent acts, quoted by them, Quantum of Solace had a count of 250.
Really?
The most depictions of violence in any Bond film, yeah. Now, I don't know what they depict as trivial or severely violent, but during the fight scenes that you just brought up, there were instances where I was wincing and I was thinking to myself, that's a bit ultra-violent compared to, let's think about the most corny Bond film, which is On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Sorry, I love the word corny. I think the word corny is one of my favourite words of all time.
I like the word pastiche as well.
Sorry, carry on.
Well, actually, no. Let's talk about... So, for instance, Roger Moore, his era of Bond is actually considered to be the most kind of, flamboyant and corny. I'd use the word corny. There's nothing in the Roger Moore era that I actually go, oh, that hurt. Whereas Daniel Craig's era is very, very stabby hand combat. And in this film a lot, I was going, ouch, ouch.
I find, though, that sometimes when it's ultra-violent, because obviously he's a spy, so he's meant to be like, jumping around buildings and things. But so many times in this movie, I thought to myself, nah, he would have broken his back. Oh, come on, he's not going to be running around after falling through I know that you like... I remember you said that you liked the sequence where they fall through the window.
Yeah,
in one of the first
I
fights. Do. Personally, I hate it. We'll have to have a fight. Because...
We're never on the same page. I'm sick and tired of this.
It's not working, Mitch.
We need a break.
No, I absolutely... The whole way through the scene, like coming up to that point, I was saying to Rich, like, oh, it's just not realistic. Like, he's jumping around doing parkour, but not in a very clumsy way. Like, no, you definitely would have broken something if you did that.
But I think you're on actually the same level as a lot of people at the time. Because if you read, like, a lot of the critics at the time, they were saying, like, oh, it's Bond turned Bourne. And that's the issue which I have with it as well, in that what they're trying to do, it's done a lot better in other films.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe it is the way it was shot, because it was so kinetic and so sort of like all over the place. That when he was like falling over and jumping onto balconies and stuff, the way that I was watching it was very violent, I guess. Like not very nuanced, not very controlled. It felt like he was just throwing himself off buildings willy-nilly. And I think because of all that building up in the scene, when they fell through the window and was smashing around and falling several floors and all this, I said to Rich, he's a fucking superhero. Like, how are they still alive? How are they still not, like, how is his back not at least sprained?
It's almost like he's got the superpower of luck.
Yes.
Like, things just happen to work out for him, and it's like nothing's earned.
And it's not a bad, like, the stunt itself is not bad, but I think as well the way it's filmed is very, like, holy shit, that's going to kill somebody, but it doesn't, because it's not controlled enough. I mean, full points for creativity, and, like, no one wants to watch two people fighting on a rooftop for 20 minutes. That's not fun, to be fair. But, yeah, for me, it just didn't work, and I think it kind of started as it meant to go on with me. It was just way too busy, way too messy. I'm not saying that every movie should be just like a fixed camera and people should just sit there in black and white smoking cigarettes and going, oui, oui, no, oui, oui. Like, I like a bit of action.
J'adore.
Oh.
Sacre bleu.
Like, I'm not saying that everything should be arty and still and there should be an emotional anchor for every scene. But you have to have some kind of human interaction with the characters, and I felt like the whole movie was either an emotional scene that was filmed so distractingly that you can't really kind of grasp what's going on, or it was the flip side, didn't know what it wanted to tell you.
I get where you're coming from. I agree. I think it's a case of they're doing too much in certain parts and they're not doing enough in other parts. And I feel like we've said throughout our discussion, I feel like there's often parts of the exposition when it comes to the dialogue that we needed just a tad more. For me, Bond needed his inner voice needed to be more outer voice. So I want to know what he's thinking at certain times more. I want to find what his motivation is more explicitly at points. And with Camille, I wanted more from her in terms of who she is as a person right there and then, because it feels like her character is just a revenge tale. Oh, my family got killed, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and also, like, in one point when she's sneaking into the building at the end, she does this cool, like, she's like Lara Croft. She's like in a little white tank top and she does like a flippy, and I actually really like that.
We're simpatico on that. When I watched that, I went, how the hell did she learn that?
But why couldn't she have been, like, showing those traits the whole way through the movie? Like, why wasn't she like a badass, like, because she could have been a spy. 75%, if not more, of the movie, she's just kind of using her feminine wiles to get to the general, but there's no real action from her. She's like, I mean, on the boat, she gets knocked out.
Oh yeah, that wound me up because it was similar. It was almost like her intro to the film didn't match where she left.
Yeah, like, you didn't know what to do with her.
No, like, when she left, I felt like we got a character that was actually quite ballsy. But when we first met her, First of all, I was thinking to myself, why did you return back to him after you just found out that he hired someone to kill you? That's a bit dumb. But it was almost like the film wanted us to believe that, like you just said, we're meant to believe that she can get by on her feminine wiles, but even they're not successful. So, and then there needed to be an instance where we saw the two of them together, where she actually used her sexuality to convince him about, her way of thinking.
I know that it's the age-old argument of, oh, well, if they made a smart decision, there wouldn't be a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm on board with that. Like, yeah, okay, if everything was real life, there wouldn't be a movie because everything would be resolved really easily and it would be like a 20-minute thing. But the way that it kind of transpires with the general coming to talk to Dominic, and then she kind of throws herself to the wolves, so to speak, from Dominic's point of view anyway.
Yeah.
Also, how stupid is he? But anyway.
What, Dominic?
Yeah, because he knows that she knows he wants her dead. So why would he think that her getting on the boat would in any way be a smart move? Like, why would he do that? He thinks they're going to shag her and throw her over the side, but he's not thinking about her motivation.
No, and also, but do we have to think to ourselves that that's Dominic all over? He only thinks about...
Yeah.
But then again, I think Dominic's the sort of person that is always like, I'm the smartest guy in the room. And so he sort of underestimates Camille.
Yes, definitely. He thinks she's so stupid.
But then back to what I said, she has no agency in that opening shot. The opening introduction that we have of Camille, that it takes me a while to think to myself that you're a credible Bond girl in terms of the fact that in a modern era, for me, a Bond girl is someone that can take care of themselves.
I would have liked it more if... Because obviously she knew that Dominic was in cahoots with the General, right? And she knows where Dominic frequents, where his base is and all this. I would have been much more impressed if you'd been introduced to her when she was almost like snipering the area. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was waiting for the General to turn up.
Yeah.
And then just taking him out. And then maybe Bond would have like interrupted her because he was snooping around and saw her and wanted to investigate. And then, it wouldn't have been cool if she was like about to take him out, like in the head, and then suddenly he like distracted her, and then that fucked up her shot.
Yeah.
I just think there were a lot of cleverer ways that they could have gone with it to make it less messy and contrived. But the thing is, it's a Paul Haggis screenplay, and everyone really rates Paul Haggis.
No, it's not, is it?
Yeah, it is.
As in Bourne? Did Paul Haggis do Bourne? Oh, no, is that Greengrass?
Greengrass, yeah. That's it. Paul Haggis has written a lot of stuff that everyone really rates. Well, it was written by 3 people. Maybe that is why. It was written by Paul Haggis, Neil Purvis, and Robert Wade.
Oh.
So perhaps because there were 3 writers, that's why we ended up with such a...
Yes, we know this.
Yeah.
2's a party, 3 is not.
I would... Indeed. Well, yeah, but 3's a crowd.
Definitely.
But no, I mean, how would you feel in terms of our ratings?
Yeah, so
where would you go?
Let's jump into the part of the show where we either decide that a film is good, bad, or underrated, or
I love it. We decide.
Or it might get the dreaded overrated.
No.
But we use that sparingly. So, in my opinion, I'm going to use a cheat here. Not only do I think it's a bad film, but I think it is an especially bad Bond film. And what I mean by that is, when we compare it, and this goes into my theory that I mentioned earlier, when we look back on the Daniel Craig era, this film no doubt will be at the bottom of everyone's list. But here's the thing. It doesn't work as a standalone film because it was never created as a standalone film. It was created to be a sequel to the much more popular Casino Royale. And this is where my tinfoil hat comes in. I think what they intended to do right from the start of Casino Royale was to do a series of films that each led into the next one. Because they obviously set up Quantum, and then they wanted to use the vehicle of Quantum to then go into the next film. But I think after this film received such negative feedback and they said it didn't work, that they actually thought, right, we need to start again. Because if we look at Skyfall, it's another origin tale because we get rid of M and we bring in a new M, which is they're going back to the beginning of Dr. No, where they bring in a general, because I think he's called General Booth in Dr. No as well. So we also have to take into consideration the last two Bond film we got was done by the same director. So they work thematically, stylistically, even though they work as a standalone film.
Like they were looking at it as a story arc rather than an episodic storyline, which for some genres works well. You know, like for things like Buffy or, I don't know, X-Files or whatever, it is basically proven, fan-wise anyway, that the episodic is much preferred. People like the monster of the week. And I think historically it's been proven that fans like that as well for the spy genre.
Yes, yeah.
They like their villain of the week.
So what I'm trying to say is the last two Bond films were done by Sam Mendes, by the same director. So we don't know whether or not No Time to Die will copy what Sam did or whether it will stand on its... Because we're in an interesting position now where we don't know what's coming next because we haven't seen it yet. But even though Spectre was kind of meh by most fans, even though I really love it, and it's grown on me the more times I see it, when I think of Skyfall, I can no longer not think of it on its own. I think of it as Spectre as well. So it's almost like Spectre Part 1, Spectre Part 2. However, they work on their own.
Yeah.
Because Silva doesn't rely on the fact that he's part of Spectre. He relies on the fact that he has a vendetta against M. Whereas in this film, there's no connection to Bond whatsoever in terms of the villain. Really, Dominic thinks of Bond as more of a irritant than anyone that he should think of as a nemesis.
Definitely, yeah.
And I'm not saying that's where the main fault of the film is, because there's a lot of faults that we discussed. But Bond essentially should work on its own in a film that you don't have to have seen the rest. There's a reason why people can pick out their favourite Bond film and not their favourite Bond era. So ultimately, it's a bad film, but the biggest sin is it's a bad Bond film. It's
just not memorable, and it's a shame because I suppose when you think memorable, it's like you think of like Goldfinger, even like Le Chiffre to a certain extent, and you know all the kind of the more cartoony, I suppose, aspects of the Bond films. Unfortunately, when you go away from cartoony and therefore pronounced, you get into this era of gritty and blue tinted and everything just looks the same and acts the same, and then you lose all sense of kind of any caricature which makes it memorable. So in Skyfall you've got Silva, who's essentially quite cartoony, right? Even, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of Spectre, but even Blofeld, because it's Christoph Waltz, is slightly cartoony. And again, with Le Chiffre, he's got the inhaler and all that. Because Dominic is so Joe Bloggs, and there's nothing really for him to... The only thing I could think of about Quantum of Solace that stands out for me is how Fields died.
Yeah.
But even that is a harken back to Goldfinger, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can't even give it that for credit.
Because I know what fans are going to be screaming at their phone right now. They're going to say, well, Sam Mendes relies on the fact that you know the old era, essentially the Connery era, where it was a man in charge, Moneypenny, Q and Bond. I get that, but what my point is, Sam Mendes doesn't rely on that in terms of a story. He relies on that in terms of style. The way he shoots things, the way he brings back, because they're all dressed very kind of like prim and proper in all his films, in Sam Mendes, both of his films. He relies on the nostalgia in terms of like, oh, that reminds me of that. Oh, that reminds me of that. But you don't need to have seen those old films to actually appreciate them as a film themselves. Now, Mark Foster's film has none of that at all, because it's actually essentially a Bourne film masquerading as a Bond film. So that's where it fails, because you're going into a film expecting Bond nostalgia, Bond tropes, and you're not getting them, which in a way should be celebrated, but it also doesn't work in terms of being a espionage spy film because you're so confused about what's going on, as we've discussed.
Yeah, you shouldn't, in my opinion, you should never be confused in any film for the plot unless it is a whodunit.
Yeah.
And it's not. We see the villain from the very beginning, so you shouldn't be wondering what they're up to or who is the actual villain. I would say disappointed. Not even disappointed. I got what I expected.
Yeah, and that's the worst sin.
Yeah.
So you agree it's a bad film?
Yes. Well, I must say, when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, a lot of effort has gone into this film. Like, when you look at the set pieces and the stunts and the choreography and such, and the locations and things, I don't always like to say like, oh, it's a shit film, it's a rubbish film, because a lot of aspects about it were like a lot of effort went into them.
Yeah, and you're like me. You can see the good in a bad film because you can understand the effort that's gone into it.
Yeah, like I wouldn't like to sit there and go, oh yeah, it was rubbish. It was completely 100% shit, because thousands of people worked on that film, and some aspects of it were very beautiful and well done, but unfortunately they just paled in comparison to the glaring flaws.
Yeah. So I always gauge it in my head as in like it's no Last Airbender, which is just flat out a bad film.
Yeah.
But I can still say objectively, even though there was loads of effort put in, it didn't ultimately work. So therefore, I didn't enjoy it. Therefore, it's a bad film.
Therefore, it failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, Quantum of Solace, but you will go down in our books as a bad film. But you know what? They got off to a bad start because that Bond theme is fucking awful.
Yeah, I tried to like it. I was watching it and I was like, no, just don't just think that you're going to hate it straight off. But I think actually, to be fair, it's suitable for the film because it is very jarring and all over the place.
But the thing is, though, what I can't seem to understand, and I'm not a music guy, and I certainly don't understand, harmonising and stuff like that, but their voices do not suit each other.
No, they don't at all. I thought that.
So Alicia Keys and Jack White, I'm sorry, but anyone who even knows music, even like peripherally, could tell you that their voices are not working and they would not work. It should be either one or the other.
Well, she's not singing it, she's shouting it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just bad all around, but I digress.
Never mind. So what do we think then? What's our verdict?
Bad.
In the court of us.
It's a bad film.
I would say it's definitely not overrated.
No.
Because no one likes it. It's not underrated, I'm afraid. I think it's just. I think it's bang on. I think it's rated fairly. It's just bad.
Right. So before we go, this is the exciting part of the podcast where I find out what we're going to be talking about next. And when we're recording this, it's a day after Jess's birthday, so this is going to be her birthday present from me.
Thanks.
So Jess, what will we talk about next time?
So I'm choosing a relatively new movie. It's a Netflix movie because I think we need to bring ourselves into the 21st century.
Yeah.
And it's called What Happened to Monday. Have you heard of it?
That is actually on my list and I haven't watched it. So it'll give you a reason to watch it.
It is along the same vein of, well, it's not really like Bond, but it is a kind of an sci-fi action thriller. Not my usual pick. I usually pick like a drama or a romance or a horror. But it stars Reely Rated, and I watched it a couple of nights ago. And I'm not going to tell you what I thought of it yet. But I think it's a very interesting movie, and I think we'll enjoy talking about it.
I might be talking out of turn, but am I correct in thinking you're not a massive fan of Reely Rated?
I think she's a good actress, but her movies don't always excite me. She's not my favourite. She's no Mila Jokovic for me. Mila Jokovic is like, I just go, oh no, as soon as I hear her name.
There used to be a time when I would defend Mila Jokovic, but we've gotten to
that time has passed.
Yeah, we've gotten to a point now where she needs to stop starring in her husband's films because her husband's films are just shit. And he's obsessed with making video game films, and none of them have been successful.
I think she needs to get into the art house scene and put some real effort in and prove herself, because I'm sure that she can act, and I've seen her be good in things. But anyway, that's by the by. So yeah, What Happened to Monday? You can watch it on Netflix for, well, not for free obviously, but for a Netflix subscription, you can watch it. I think people will be entertained by this, but we will see. We'll discuss it when we reconvene.
Considering where we left off on the last episode with me screaming, no!
You'll never trust me again, will you?
No, that's the last time I give you a pick on my pick. Okay, let's get out of here. I had a great time talking about Quantum of Solace, and I'm looking forward to what happened to Monday.
Or Tuesday.
So all that's left for us to say is goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
You've been listening to Reely Rated, a movie review podcast.
If you've enjoyed this episode, why not dive into our archives and catch up on the movie reviews you might have missed?
And have your say by sending your own thoughts and questions of the films we've discussed so far to reelyrated@gmail.com.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with the latest episodes.
And spread the word that we are now available at Podbean, iTunes, Spotify and Google Play Music.
Until next time, film fans,
Keep it really rated.